Is it counting down?
Go.
All right, Rob Falcon and my son Jacob Falcon here for the first time. We're going to call this the show because I don't know, we're the show, I guess, right? It's basketball time, so we'll start. We're gonna do this quick. We're gonna have a couple segments going on. We'll start first with what we think, and since it's our show, it's more important. What we think are the postseason awards. We can rack down a bunch of them, and we'll start like we did before with the All NBA team. Actually, we'll do it a little different, Jake. Last time we went back and forth.
Yeah.
I'll go with what I think, and then you go with what you think, and then we can touch on that. How do you think?
That's
fine.
That's
All right.
better.
Unless you want to go first.
Go.
All right. Again, like I told you before, I think the All NBA team should be a true point guard, a true 2, 3, 4, and 5, not just 2 guards, 2 forwards, like they do it, which I'm not a big fan of. So we'll do it right. I'll say Derrick Rose is my point guard. It was tough between him and Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo faded a little bit towards the end of the season, as the Celtics did, and actually that's really when Derrick Rose kind of really made his case. So I'll say that 2 guard. Dwayne Wade was the rock of that train wreck of a team that the Heat are, that they have been. Dwayne Wade is my 2 guard. He was really the most solid person on that team all year long. My 3, my small forward, I'm going to say Kevin Durant, and again, that's a gray area because he can be a 4, but I truly put him as a 3.
So he plays the 3 more than any position.
And exactly, and I mean, really, he's one of the few guys that can.
He can play 1 through 4.
The 1, exactly. I mean, he can play 1 through 4. So I mean, I'm going to put him. He's my 3. And my power forward. This is something that me and you. It's funny when I hear yours because I know what yours is going to be already. I think it's funny how people can differentiate on such an important position, because I think it's the deepest position aside from the point guard. Like I told you, we spoke about this before.
Yeah.
I think the power forward position is so deep, and now I'm thinking like, man, I had my guy, and now I'm starting to think, man, really, who should I put as my power forward? Because KG had a season that KG hasn't had in a long time. And really, he was actually kind of, if you want to talk about a rock of the team, to me, he was the rock of the Celtics, even when Rondo was failing, Ray Allen was cold, whatever, Shaq and Jermaine O'Neal was out, and KG was absolutely phenomenal. But you want to sit there and go by point guard, I'm going to say, like I said before, Blake Griffin. I think
he made an impact immediately, that's why he just...
Well, I think he's the most athletic person in the NBA, first of all, and I think that he brings so much to the power forward because he's a true power forward, but his athleticism, it brings a whole different. Like you think of guys like power forward, you think Tim Duncan, the Hall of Famer, all time great, Kevin McHale, Charles Barkley. What this guy brought is something just beyond. But I'm almost 40 years old. I've been watching basketball for a long time. I've never seen nothing like that at the power forward position. And he's my guy. And center, I mean, really.
It's not really an argument.
Dwight Howard is possibly the best player in the league. The most dominant player in the league. An unstoppable player in the league. So that's my 5. I got Rose, Wade, Durant, Griffin, and D. Howard. So it's all
point guard position. Pretty much everyone in the country probably reads Derrick Rose for numerous reasons. Where he carried that team when they weren't healthy till about 30 games left in the season, and they had top 3 best record all year, and they ended up with the best record in the league. Won 61 games compared to 41 last year, and he rose above every time they needed to challenge. Every time
even against the Celtics, against the greater teams is when.
Against the better teams, he played better. And he was, like I told you before, he was the only guy in the league, top 10 in scoring and assists. So he not only was scoring, he was distributing the ball to other guys who stepped up, like Dang, when he was healthy, Boozer, Ronnie Brewer, all those guys, Korver.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 guard, I told you last time, only because of the respect I have for the guy and how great of a player he is Kobe Bryant. Because I said before, when they were playing good, he was the guy that, if he doesn't play good, they can't win.
But what I told you before, not to cut you off, but I will. In the beginning of the season, when they actually literally were playing their best ball of the year, it was Pau Gasol who was their best player. So, I mean, Kobe's Kobe. Don't get me wrong. I'll never argue with that. You know, as much as I hate him, I'll never argue with that. But I think you're giving him a little more merit for what he's done in the past as to what he's done this year. But I'm not going to argue with you. That's your decision. So go ahead.
And Gasol faded hard at the end of the
Absolutely.
season, and the only guy that could step up was Kobe. Because there's not really much talent on the team. Odom comes and goes as he pleases, and there's not really anyone outside those three guys. 3-guard or small forward, whatever you want to call it. Told you before, you're really not a big fan of how he went about his business, but Carmelo Anthony. And I say that because when the trade talks were at the highest, he played his best.
With Denver.
With Denver. Same week, he scored 42 points. He scored 50. He scored 40 a game after that. He averaged almost 40 points in 1 week before he was traded to that team. Did the team play good with him? The Knicks aren't even a great team, but they'll be a good team. He brings a lot.
Amar was almost my power forward, to be honest with you.
He was MVP for a while.
But
power forward, you know, there's a lot of guys that could go
deep
to
position.
I thought long and hard about Aldridge on a team that was never healthy. He played his best ball.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of guys, but I went with the guy that's been on a team that's been on the radar. It's the Grizzlies, Zach Randolph. The guy who's had great. He averaged 20 and 12 last year.
And real quick, last week when we did this the first time, they were way under the radar. Now they're not, but yeah, we'll talk about that more. But yeah, Zach Randolph, I'm
Zach
not going to
Randolph he's always been good. He's always, well, maybe if he does this, that potential. Now I think he's hit his potential. He was on the Knicks, he was on the Clippers, and you're never going to shine on teams like that.
The Blazers for a while when they really were the bad Blazers. It was like they had a bunch of guys that nobody wanted, you know, and he had some weight problems.
Contract problems.
You know, exactly. He had some problems.
Now he's going to be on the Grizzlies for a while. They signed an extension.
He really is.
Center, again, Dwight Howard for the guy, mind you, he had, I think, top of my head, might be wrong, but 20 games this year.
Seemed like he had one every week. Or every day, I mean.
5 blocks a game, it seems like. The guy,
just a freak.
Only player that can stop him is Dwight Howard.
Yeah, really. I mean, not even Perkins.
His team beats him.
Kendrick Perkins can play him, but like I said, when we were talking about this, I'm like, when they played the Celtics last time, when Perkins was there, Dwight Howard put up 30-something points, you know, and that's what Perkins played him great. So his teammates, and I would never dog his coach. I like Stan Van Gundy, so his teammates and him are the only people that can stop him. Because Stan Van said, get the ball to Dwight. They don't get it. They're a three-point shooting team.
There's 2 things mainly on that team that beats him. It's the 3-point line and his fouls. They're the only things that beat him. Because his team's 3-point shooters and they won't give him the ball.
And he gets into foul trouble constantly. And that's a bad thing.
And he doesn't keep his mouth shut. So one thing, the only knock I have against him, he doesn't keep his mouth shut. That's why he's always has 12, 13, 14 technicals a year now.
So aside from our All-NBA team, we differed on the 2-guard, on the 3, and the 4, actually. The only thing we agreed on were the...
2 pretty much, 2 guys who were in the race for MVP.
Basically 1 and 2 in MVP, so... and we'll get to that in a second. 6th man of the year was... these all have already been done. These are just our opinions. 6th man of the year, Lamar Odom won. I think Glenn Davis should have got it. Because Lamar Odom started 35 games out of 82. Glenn Davis started maybe 5. And the Celtics were decimated with injuries, and Glenn Davis still never started. Came in and did his how much time we got?
You got 6 minutes.
And so Glenn Davis came in. Glenn Davis was my guy. I know who your guy is. If you want to go ahead and fire up.
I actually can't remember who it was before.
Crawford's, I think it's
Jamal Crawford, that's right. Why wouldn't you pick Crawford? The guy averages 20 off the bench.
I like Crawford.
Off the bench.
He's a gunner, though, but I don't like gunners. That's my thing.
He's dropped 50 a couple times before. One year when he was in New York, he scored, I think he scores 20 straight points for the Knicks in the game. The guy can score
50 with the Knicks, I think.
He can fill it up. He's just... I'll get to him more later.
I like Crawford, to be honest with you, and that'll be actually because the next segment we're talking about what's going on, which is different from what we were talking about last week, which is funny. So 6th man, I said Glenn Davis, you said Crawford, Lamar Odom got it. Rookie of the year, I think we both pretty much agreed. We don't think Blake Griffin should even be in the running because he was drafted the year before.
Considered a rookie, but
I think John Wall. In a weak rookie class,
It literally wasn't a great week. There was a couple guys that had moments like Landry Fields, Marcus Cousins.
Exactly. And Fields was one.
That's about it.
But it's just a weak class. I mean, you want to give Griffin, of course, we're going to go the way they're going to say it. It's
John Wall had numbers.
17-5-5. I mean,
17-8-5.
17-8-5. I mean, I'll take that from a veteran.
So, but
and defensive player of the year.
I mean,
I liked Rondo. But I'm not going to argue with Dwight Howard ever.
Yeah,
I'll never
Dwight Howard. But
argue with Dwight Howard.
Like I told you before, if Chris Paul is healthy, that's another guy who's always going to be in that race.
It's harder. It's harder for a small guy like Paul and Rondo to get recognition for it because they're not. I mean, Dwight Howard gets the blocks, and Dwight, it's center is kind of a fashionable position.
Yeah, I told you before though. Another guy is Josh Smith, gets steals and blocks.
It's Josh Smith. I mean, he's 6'8". And he blocked Dwight Howard the other day in a game. I mean, rejected Dwight Howard.
The guys like that change the game on the defensive side. That's hard to see nowadays. But
I mean, when you see a guy like Chris Paul and Rondo who are just disrupt every pass on every play, every single time.
And in your grill, they never give you any space.
It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Kobe. It doesn't matter if you're Derrick Rose. It doesn't matter. They're right there.
It's another thing. Chris Paul and Kobe. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's another just beautiful thing. But again, I'd say Rondo, and I thought Rondo almost the whole season, regardless of how he slipped offensively and the team, I still think his defense was right there.
Say Howard just wasn't so dominant.
And I wouldn't argue with Howard. I mean, so that's kind of just going to be a really non-answer. Coach of the year, Doug Collins. I told you that. Doug Collins.
Monty Williams. I told you before, because before even the season started, he had pressure on him because Chris Paul wanted to leave. Season started. Hornets started off great. I think they're like 9-1.
9-1, exactly.
And then they struggled a little bit, just as every team does. And they made the playoffs as 7th seed.
I mean, geez, half the teams make the playoffs anyway. So.
But I think he did a great job with that team with what little he did have.
Doug Collins started at 3-11, kept the young team together with a lot of talent, and really kept them together. And at one point, they were up in the 5th seed. And so Doug Collins is my guy. MVP. We kind of agreed and disagreed upon. We both said it was down to the two, Howard and Rose, and I said Howard.
You said Howard, I said Rose. Only reason I didn't give it to Howard because his team didn't play well.
I just think
he didn't get the ball.
I just think Howard is the best player in the league. Really, I mean, really, he's the best player in the league.
I think Rose was just the best player this year. That's why I give him the MVP. He played just phenomenal basketball all year, and he carried that team, like I said before, when they were hurt. And they got the 1 seed in a conference where Magic have been in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 of the last 3 years. The Heat joined together, LeBron and Bosh. And
but
the Celtics have been in the finals.
The Heat the Magic went through the biggest trade and basically revamped their whole team. And Dwight Howard's the only constant in that team. Not Jameer Nelson, nobody else. And that's where we agree and disagree. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back. So that's our postseason awards. And this is the first episode of the show with Robert and Jacob Falcon. And we'll be back here in just a minute.